Hello, welcome to another episode of Shooting the Shift. This is take 500 of the intro this week because apparently we want to talk about everything except the planned topic.
And the planned casual car chat.
The planned topic this week is what is wrong with the car community these days. That's Matt.
Yeah, still here.
That's Milton.
Yep, still here.
That's Bryn.
I'm running out of tea.
Is it still hot though?
It's roasting.
So, Bryn, I'm going to let you king of the rant.
I think I'm in any state to rant, mate. I don't care what's wrong with the car scene. You people just do what you want. Whatever.
That's the problem.
Some prices. Paint green. Stop green. Throw paint at wheels. Who cares?
Is it Nardo Grey?
Fucking Nardo Grey. There was a really cool car at the weekend that wasn't Nardo Grey.
What was it?
Oh,
green in it.
S15.
Yeah, it was like a...
Oh, the Lambo doors.
The
yeah,
Subaru.
he said it was a factory Subaru colour, but a factory colour in America.
Safari green or something.
Something like that, yeah.
I did listen.
So, cool cars aside, Bryn has listed off a couple of things, right? So I think like the main problem is this kind of... I've had it, right? I've had someone turn around to me and go, your cars are rubbish because they're old. Okay. They're not that old. They're younger than me.
That's fine. That's what stupid people do. And stupid people don't deserve an opinion.
This is essentially what I'm saying. Potentially, maybe there's too many idiots. Not our subscribers, obviously. None of you are idiots.
I think the problem is
The
car
four
finance.
idiots are here.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem is car finance.
Finance has always been that.
Actually, no. So Milton might actually be right on this because that...
How many... When you was 18, 19, when we was all... Like 20 years ago, 30 years ago when we was that young, because we're all old farts now.
20, 30 years ago when we were 18, 19, I am the oldest. And 20, 30 years ago, even I wasn't 18, 19, Mills.
I was just trying not to make a Matt's old joke, but when you was 18, 19, 20,
yeah,
you could you go get credit on a brand new Fiesta, Golf or whatever?
Absolutely not, because my address was in Birkenhead.
Well, yeah, but...
Well, so my point here, so I didn't go and finance my first car because my parents gave me some money that had been saving since I was a baby that I could then go and buy a car with. And that was the idea behind that until I wrote it off. And then what I did was went to Available Car and financed the cheapest car they had. So I still financed the car.
Okay, still slightly. I see what you mean. You didn't just go for a brand new car, did you?
Well, at the time, I wasn't that into cars, so all I needed was the cheapest runaround I could find.
I think for me that's different because actually, I bought my first car after school, after I'd come back from the States, and I had a well-paid sales job. The first car I owned in the UK was my brand new BMW Mini. Technically the first car I owned was a Ford Ka while I waited for the BMW Mini to be built.
Okay, you just all pissed over my point. You are the problem.
I'm not the problem. I had too much money.
You had a brand new car for your first car. You're the problem.
No, because if you go back to when the Citroen Saxo was brand new, they were selling that with a year's free insurance. So it was very, very applicable to 18-year-olds because you could go and finance it because you didn't have to pay insurance for a year.
He's not wrong.
So finance has always been there. The difference now, I think, is financed parts are more readily available.
Yeah, sorry about that, boys.
Kalana.
Actually,
is one of them.
Available on the website.
It is available on the website, and I used to work for one of Klarna's competitors, and I'm responsible for several motorsport companies starting to offer finance on their parts.
But I think that's the point. Is it's not the financing of the actual car itself, because you can finance second-hand cars.
Mm.
You can take out a personal loan and buy a second-hand car, but it's the financing of the parts.
I actually think you might be more onto something about the financing of the car, because there is therefore, most people go on a PCP and there is a limitation of what you can do to that car. You cannot fit mad body kits, right? You've got to be able to take it back to stock when you give the bloody thing back, right? So you can't do what used to go on in the Max Power days. And all the cars that were cheap enough to be done in the Max Power days, a lot of them didn't survive the scrappage scheme.
Yeah.
Also, if you're not broke when you're modifying a car, it means you can just buy stuff and fit it and it's done. But if you're broke as shit, the only way you can modify your car is to fit really badly fitting things. And then you've got to work out how to make them fit better. And then you've got to fiddle with them when they fall off because they didn't fit very well. And that teaches you some stuff.
But that's a good point, though, because if you go back to the Max Power era, they weren't buying and fitting stuff off the shelf like you can now.
Because there wasn't available, right?
I don't think it was that readily available.
There was stuff. I mean,
to a certain degree, there was.
You could go on Mad Motors and spunk a few £100 on a body kit. Or
yeah, but you couldn't buy a Ford Escort boot for 3 36-inch subs and this and this and that. And
no, you had to build your own sandboxes and all that stuff.
For example, at the moment, I think you can go and buy an SR20 conversion kit for an MX-5.
Yeah, that probably didn't exist. I'll give you that.
So I think the certain aspects of it now, as much as we go on about people not building shit anymore, you can just go on Buffy Racing and buy all the shit you need and just bolt it straight to the car.
That is a good thing, though. Why reinvent the wheel when someone's already invented it for you?
It's a good thing, but I think it limits creativity to a certain extent.
I was going to say, because that means that everybody's now... You look at an MX-5 and the odds are it's got a GV lip on it.
And rotors.
Yeah, and not everybody's in the same situation that we're in. Like, not everybody's got a Brin that they can phone up and go, I've got this bonkers idea and I need an engineer, Brin.
Hey, I didn't have a Brin. I made me.
I know.
Yeah, I think the other...
But now you're our Brin. Carry on, Matt.
What my point was now. Because I was trying to make a point and then you're talking over me and I forgot what it was. That was it. So I think there are some people out there, like our friend John with the FD, that have zero interest in working on their cars. They just want to buy the parts off the shelf, pay somebody else to bolt them to the car, and then go and enjoy driving the car.
Yeah.
But he couldn't then take it to car shows. He should.
I mean, I've been to one car show in the last 3 or 4 years, and that was Yakushi. I'm not a massive fan of car shows. I'll come to car shows if I get to go on track. It's very rare that I'll actually go to a car show to go and look at the cars. And I think part of that problem is because you go there and they're all the same. And I think part of that problem is the internet. Because everybody's always comparing themselves. When somebody does something new and unique, everybody jumps on it to copy it, because where you do something unique, take it to a local show and only a few hundred people see it, now thousands of people on the internet see it.
I think there's another element actually to that, Matt, and you raise a valid point. Maybe the internet is what's wrong with the car scene.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe we just need to shoot all of our routers, right? Get rid of the Wi-Fi.
The internet's what's wrong with society. But that's a different topic.
That is a whole new... We are not fixing the world tonight.
No,
young Mr. Graham.
But there are upsides to the internet as well, because if you want to go, what wheels fit my MX-5 really well, there's hundreds of people there ready to tell you this is the sort of size you want.
Yeah, but you can solve that.
Shout out to the internet for fixing fitment. It's actually quite hard to have bad fitment in the 21st century.
You just go on to willtheyfit.com and you put in your specs and you go, I like the look of these wheels. Put the information in, it's going to be this. Oh, that's going to crunch my arches. I can't fit them.
No, that's way too easy. That's what lazy people who actually want to fit decent wheels to their car do. I had to do that with the NC because I didn't know what size fitted, and I had to do that with the Mazda 6. However, if you want to fit wheels to your NA MX-5, what you do is you go on MX-5 nuts and go, what wheels fit my car? And everybody says 15x0.
And they're wrong.
They're 15x8 ET0 or 10 as Bryn's got.
Yeah, 10. God spec.
10. I'm with Bryn on this one.
Also, just circling back to the lack of creativity, I want to shout out the guy at Yakushi with the Micra with the Coca-Cola livery up the side, because that was like, there were a few cars there that, you know, were cool show cars in the show and shine area. That was just in the normal parking, and it was one of those cars where I looked at it and just went, yeah, he's just picked a direction and he's just run with it. Because that shit was weird. That was really weird, but it was perfect.
Because he done the headlights. The headlight cover.
Did a headlight cover and everything.
One headlight had a headlight cover. The other headlight had like 2 projector headlights in it.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was a whole vibe in a car. But I've not seen anything like that before.
I have seen similar, and I was well into that car. I'm well into that style of build. And genuinely, you know, when we've got enough money in the pot to do a budget build, it's probably the direction I'm going to try and convince you boys to go after we've done Sec Spec Daihatsu Matiz. Which one is it? I can't remember which one we're meant to do now.
Yeah, it's Daewoo Matiz.
Yeah. Sec Spec Matiz, and then budget, do whatever we want car once we're finished with all Matt's build vlogs.
But what the difference is, all 4 of us like that kind of build. But you'll go to a lot of, say, Ford Fair, for example, and a lot of people there that have Fiestas on air and wheels and nothing else like similar cars. That's why they built their car that way. And I think part of the problem is everyone goes, you should build your car like this and no other way. Whereas what actually should be said is, you build your car how you like it and fuck what everyone else thinks.
Yeah, we're not designed to be regimented members of a society. Like, build whatever the you want, right? Don't let some guy on the internet go, look at my dreadlocks, shiny wheels.
But that is important as well, because actually part of the problem with the internet is that if you have a polarizing or a very unique car, a lot of people will like it and a lot of people will dislike it. And the people who dislike it on the internet will tell you, and you will generally read that, and it will have more of an impact than the people who liked it. Yep. So when people do something weird like that, it doesn't take that many people to go, that's disgusting, why have you made those decisions, to make people kind of not want to do it.
Yeah.
You think about the Lamborghini, that MX-5 with the just stupid, like, 19-inch wheels or whatever. That, like, I mean, granted, it was a complete pile of crap in terms of actually a driving car. But the work that he put in to make that, it was sick. You've never seen anything like that, but much hate.
But he did that deliberately to generate hate.
Yeah, but when you actually think about it, like, that was cool. That was actually cool.
That's an engineering standpoint.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, I can sit there and I can look at something people have built and I can go, I appreciate the time that they've put into that if it's like custom stuff. If I go to a show and I see a Volkswagen Golf on air with some rotiforms, right?
Or 1552s.
I want to say something here about more modern cars, right? So you buy say you want to get into drifting, you buy an MX-5, and you're going to lower it, and you're going to put wheels on it, and then you're going to start fiddling around with stuff like the stereo, and you want to put a lip on it and stuff like that. Yep. That's a given. You style it up and you make it look good. More modern cars, and I found this with the Mazda 6, once you lowered it and put wheels on it, you didn't actually have to do anything else to it to make it look good.
But this
because I didn't have to fiddle with the radio because I already had Bluetooth and GPS built into it.
Yeah.
I'd have liked a lip kit on the front. It already had a spoiler on the back. The rear windows were already tinted from the factory. Like,
I do see your point.
And car manufacturers do take a lot of what we do with modifying cars and put it into their factory cars as well.
Then it is on us as a community to continue to push the boundaries of what's possible. That is that, and I don't think that happens as much anymore.
But it's very difficult to, because you take the same example and you think about an MX-5. Okay, after you've lowered it and you put wheels on it, what else do? You want a bit of power, so you put a manifold on it and you put an exhaust on it. That's actually quite a lot more difficult to do with a modern car because you need to do lambda deletes if you get rid of the cats. And actually the exhaust packaging is probably pretty horrible. It's not going to be easy to get in there and change it. So a lot of the more mechanical things are quite difficult to do, especially do yourself.
And the electronics to it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of electronics. And if you want to, push the boundaries on something like that, you pretty much have to buy something that's been properly engineered by a company because they're the only ones with the kind of financial backing and experience to make that happen to a modern car. And that's expensive. And then you're going to need some finance to do that. And it's kind of, cars getting more complicated also makes it more difficult to modify them.
I tell you what,
I think just carrying on your modern point with changing exhaust and stuff. My NC, for example, is a 2008. So I have to keep cats in it so that I can pass emissions and keep it on the road with an MOT, unless you get a friend to do your MOT for you. So that's something you have to take into consideration when you're doing it. And there's a few more nuances with the way that the cars are set up with modern cars and electronics and CAN bus systems and all of that stuff as well.
I think the interesting thing actually that Bryn makes is as cars get more and more modern. Actually, he's right. They do get more complex and it's harder to pull systems out than it used to be. I think we're going to hit a really interesting tipping point, right? Around about 2030, 2040. Yeah, so I'll be in my 50s by this point.
If you're still alive.
Cheers, bud.
That was macabre.
We've seen how you drive.
Yeah, your MS5 will be on the road by then, so...
You better... Ooh.
Mate, his MX-5 will be illegal before it's back on the road.
Yeah, I still drive it, though.
Not really, the police cars are faster than it anyway.
Just hearing me ripping... Yeah, there's no police cars down country lanes, Mills. Just hearing ripping up the country lanes.
It won't be, even by the time your car gets on the road, it'll all be drone police. You'll get about 4 foot out of your gate and there'll be 16 drones on you. And you'll put your foot down to try and escape and they'll just like, wow.
They'll all have magnets and just pick you up.
Just put you in the naughty kid. Nice try, boomer.
I'm not a boomer. I'm a millennial, Brent. I'm a millennial, says little Mr. Gen Z there.
I'm not Gen Z.
Well then, so 2030.
So 2030 anyway. Yeah, back on point.
Yes.
I think we're going to see some really interesting shit starting to happen with modifying and tuning electric cars. Uprated motors.
I agree with, not in the way that you're thinking though. I think what you're going to get is you're going to get a surge of cars going to scrap where the batteries have died and the owners can't afford to replace the batteries. So we're going to have a plethora of shells to replace our rusting MX-5s with.
Oh, tangent.
So you buy a Tesla that the battery's gone flat on, you can't get replacement parts for it. We buy that Tesla, throw all the interior away, and then put the running gear of a rotary RX-7 in it, for example.
I was about to, you'll have to edit this, man, but if you could get an electric car shell, what shell would you get and what power packet would you get?
I would have a Honda E with a 12A naturally aspirated peripheral ported rotary in it because that's the opposite to an electric car.
I am pleased to say that Bryn has answered that question for me.
Yeah, it's a good package, to be fair.
Or like a K11 micro engine or something like that actually suits the Honda E.
I would want
the original Civic engine.
Yeah.
Tesla with a V8.
I think your problem at the moment is there's not actually a lot of electric cars to choose from right now, other than shitty hatchbacks like a Zoe.
Bam. We'll do a cut here.
I'd do the opposite. I'm hyped to do the opposite. I really want to buy a Peugeot 403 van and stick like electric car running gear in it. And Google Peugeot 403 van on your own time, because I didn't know they existed until I found them in the marketplace yesterday.
I think going back to the actual topic here, I think this is what we're going to see a lot of in the future, is not modifying petrol engines or trying to get ICE engines to go further. We're going to start putting electric motors in old cars.
Yep.
And I'm all for that, because if it means my NA MX-5 can stay on the road forever,
and
I'm going to put an electric engine in it all day long.
They've already started doing that, haven't they?
Well, that poses some really interesting engineering questions. The day I turn around to Bryn and go, Bryn, how do we do four-wheel drive high-cast with electric motors?
Easy.
You put one on each corner.
Yeah. Where the gearbox used to be, you put a motor.
No, Bryn, high-cast.
High-cast is just four-wheel steering, that's easy.
Yeah. I think, no, but if I want to put a motor on each wheel, then it starts getting slightly more complex, right?
You should have instead of steering arms, you should have actuators.
Burrito,
Bryn.
So anyway, sorry about the quick thing there. We had to jump through time on account of
old man bladder.
Yeah, something like that.
And it wasn't Matt this time.
It's normally Bryn.
It is normally me, and I did go for a wee in that intermission.
There we go. So anyway, back onto topic. You know, we were talking about what the future holds. We originally started this episode. So we started the episode on what's wrong with things, and we've kind of solved the creativity problem.
I know the next problem.
Yeah.
Parking spaces and roads aren't suitable for today's cars.
Yes. Yeah.
On the parking spaces, you see, like, I think, I'm well in the lines, and you look on the other side and you're literally just in the lines, but then you see an old car and you can fit 3 of them in the parking spaces.
Yeah, well, like a single garage that used to be the correct size for an old car, and you could have got out of your car when you get into the garage. And now I've been measuring single garages when looking at houses, and it's like, wow, the MX-5 only just fits in there. The Lexus, it's about 2 foot out the door.
The problem there is the fact that everybody wants more inside their car, so you need more room inside the car to accommodate all of this, and crash regulations. For the same amount of space inside the car, the doors have to be thicker, so it goes outwards.
The other side of that, though, right, is that parking spaces have definitely got shorter.
Yeah.
Like lengthwise, because the Stagia hangs about a foot out of every parking space I've ever parked in.
And I think your problem there is more people than ever have cars, so we need more parking spaces than ever. So they shrink them all by an inch. And if you've got, I don't know how wide a car is, say,
1.8 meters.
That's not an inch, but take 10 centimeters off every space. You take that off at 18 spaces, and you get another one on the end.
Yeah.
Yep.
They do that at the rows, don't they? So they can get a whole extra row of parking.
Yeah.
And actually, the thing that's wrong with the roads right now is they're just not suitable.
Too many potholes.
Too many potholes.
Too many people. When it was lockdown, proper lockdown, and none of you fuckers were going to work, it was genuinely like a time machine. Like, listening
none of us were going to work.
Yeah, but like people I work with were saying, like, this is what it was like when I was a kid. This is the height of traffic, is what it's like now. And then as lockdown started easing and the traffic went up and up, I was getting to points where I was like, Jesus Christ, this is rammed. And then 2 months later, I'd be like, oh my God, I forgot this many cars existed. And then 2 months later, like, I haven't moved in 5 minutes. Where are all these people coming from? And you forget how overpopulated the roads are now.
And that is 100% down to mums taking kids to school.
Yeah.
Because,
and dads.
And people
okay, parents taking kids to school.
So what we're essentially saying is, right, make little Tarkas, the fat shit, walk to school, and he'll be less fat, and it will be easier for us to get to work.
Yes, because...
Don't know why I chose Tarquin as the name of that child, but...
And your
weird ass name.
Diversity.
You're throwing stones, mate.
So put it this way: where place I used to work was 5 miles from my house, and on a normal day it would take me 25 to 30 minutes to get there.
Yep.
During the school holidays, it would take me 7 minutes.
But also a lot of people...
Nothing else had changed, just the school holidays.
Yeah, but a lot of people go on holiday as well, so you get people who would be driving to work not as well. But also, you say
Not by that much.
The place that you work was 5 miles away from your house. Back in yonder days, in like the 70s and 80s, that wouldn't have happened. You would not have worked that far away from your house. Most people wouldn't. Most people would have walked to work because they couldn't really afford to be driving to work.
To be fair, if it had been flat and I was fitter, I'd have biked it.
I mean, 5 miles isn't that far.
No.
So
No, but you know my point. Like, as the world has shrunk, as we say, and everybody's commuting, you get people who commute like an hour and a half to work.
So returning to the topic of what's wrong with the car scene.
All of you. People existing. People existing is what's wrong with the car scene. Die, all of you.
Bryn, like all dictators ever, has resolved to resolve this problem with genocide.
Mate, if I ruled this world, there would be about 4 people left on the planet. And it would be all I'm saying is never elect me to a position of power, right? Because I have absolutely no concept of democracy.
You're not the only one that's in this podcast who doesn't get on well with democracy, bro.
Back on top.
I'm all for like a benevolent dictatorship, right? So long as I'm the dictator.
So going back to the car scene, the problem is
the
people
internet.
want to please other people and get likes on the internet rather than do what they want to do.
The problem is the internet, and you're all too lazy because you're stuck in your phone all day. That means the roads are so busy, and that means that we now have to have boring electric cars instead of cars that go bwap.
Yeah.
Basically. So we fixed that.
The internet. I've just put it down to the internet.
There's only one thing for it. We need to shoot the routers. Sod shooting the shift.
Is that a Kasabian song?
I don't think it is, but it may be a slap in the next drop. Speaking of which, new drops out for anyone who wants to go buy some stickers and support the channel and get us to
the picture of Milton with the cucumber dick.
It's not the picture of Milton with the cucumber dick.
Maybe it should be.
But maybe we need to do a picture of Milton with the cucumber dick that just says that just is with anime done by one of our lovely art team with just the words "honest, it's a pickle, Rick."
Well, racing is important. Dignity is not.
The things you do to earn sponsors.
The best.
I like rating is important. Dignity is not.
I like that as well. I think the important thing about that statement is, Milton, we've still got more of those photos.
Yep.
They're all basically the same.
Oh, there's more coming.
I've still got the cucumber.
If you want an OnlyFans that's dedicated to Milton and his cucumber,
Milton,
hit the like button.
Your cucumber now.
I don't know. It's still in the car. You'll see tomorrow.
Can we get some updated cucumber shots, Milts?
I'll get a nice slow finger firmness test for you.
Oh, for shorts, yeah, we'll get one of them.
I'll do a burnout on it for you.
So for everybody listening, what was wrong at Yakushi is I bought Milton a magazine called Ryan's World because it turns out he's actually famous, and Bryn told me that he thinks that nobody ever thinks about vegetables at a show, so I bought him a fruit in the form of a cucumber because it turns out I didn't know that a cucumber wasn't a vegetable.
It's a good effort.
And also, cucumber fits perfectly in an MX-5 TSI.
Yeah, who knew that? Who knew that? But anyway, so the internet's what's wrong with everything. The fact that you all rely on validation from other human beings who are essentially collectively a bunch of mindless cunts.
Oh, point actually, Bam. There is a point to that though. Also, if I don't have 1 million subscribers on social medias,
Yeah.
companies won't help me either. So I'm the nicest guy or whatever.
We help you.
Yes, not all. You know what I mean, though.
I know.
I'm not gonna get Mazda sponsorship, am I? Because I've got 132 likes on my last picture.
No.
If they saw that cucumber shot.
And actually, that
Mad
brings us,
Mike, you're out.
that brings us back to actually another topic that we've done before. So, if you go back in a few episodes, we talked about how to get sponsorship and how not to deal with sponsors and how to deal with sponsors. There is genuinely somebody submitted a request to be a rep for the brand recently, and when I rejected it because actually they'd never bought from us. They'd never interacted with any. I'll go through a lot of stuff. Have you interacted with social posts? Have you bought from us? Do you know what we're all about? Right? And they were just chancing it. They'd applied for the reps program and they were chancing it. I rejected it. And I actually got a really shitty email back saying, "Do you not know who I am? Why the fuck have you rejected my rep application?" And I just replied with, "You've not bought from the brand ever, so you don't know what we're about. Thanks."
Also,
bye."
I don't know who you are.
Yeah, I have no concept of who you are. You've never bothered to come and say hello or anything. I like the reps to have a conversation, and I know like the boys have all got their own rep codes that they should really be putting out there a little bit more, but they never use themselves, right?
Whoops, I didn't even know that. Because I bought stickers at retail and a t-shirt at retail.
Yeah.
Here's Bam singing your praises, being an angel for never using your rep code. Milton's like, man, I would have been banging the shit out of that rep code if I knew I had it.
The worst bit for Milton on this actually is because Milton is like the only driver who's competing at the moment. He actually has the highest discount code out of everybody.
Should all just promote his code?
No, let's not, because then we won't have any money for us to sponsor the rest here.
And also, you don't know where the code's being seen. That's why you.
It's a good point that you bring up now, because companies are now sponsoring people for show car builds. And again, this circles back to the internet, because they will sponsor social media influencers.
Yeah.
To do show car builds rather than actual. I mean, to be fair, Max Power cars were mostly nothing more than show car stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a similar sort of thing that will sponsor them for doing not a lot of work.
It's the advertising, isn't it? Think about it.
And that's what it is. So social media is a massive advertising platform now.
I think there's a really interesting thing about that as well, though. I think there's an almost herd mentality that's developing because of the internet, and I've noticed this trying to start a small brand, right? And I'm not woe is me in this. We've grafted hard for the last 5 years to get to where we've got to now. But actually, I had a friend message me once ago, "Why are your prices the same prices as Status Error?" Well, because that's like what t-shirts cost, mate. Well, I want a discount on it. I'll help make you popular. And because I said I can't afford to give you a discount because we're starting out, and like literally every penny that me and Hurdy had spare between us went into that first batch of t-shirts we bought, one of which is in this frame here, right? Because that is in fact, that's before we caved and said we'll get a screen printer, we'll go to a proper printer. I think
actually this is one of the early ones as well.
Yeah, this one on the wall here, right, is one we built our own screen printing machine, and it was shit.
Yeah, DIY screen printing is not fun.
Yeah, but you know what? It's in a frame and it's on the wall, and it reminds me every day of the roots of the brand. But like, having your friends turn around to you, and anybody turn around to you when you're a small brand and go, "You have to give me this because then I will make you popular."
That is the definition of entitlement.
Yeah. And I think the entitlement around that the internet has brought is actually the real issue with the car scene. You know, there's an element of I am entitled to a brand new car I am entitled to these parts even though I can't afford them because Johnny with the job that pays 5 times as much as mine has them. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, and the internet makes people feel like they should have everything that everybody else has. Keeping up with the Joneses is like on steroids now.
I think that's a good point though, because you go out there and this is the whole real versus fake wheels argument is everybody should run real wheels and not reps and all the rest of it. It's like, well, not all of us can afford real wheels. And at the end of the day, I'm in a drift car. And if I'm showing wheels towards walls and I can pay £200 per wheel rather than £2,000 per wheel, I'm going to pick £200 per wheel because odds are I'm going to break it.
How are you spending £200 on a wheel?
I'm using examples.
Okay.
And I'm buying 18s.
I've spent more than £200 on wheels before, but...
Yeah, no.
That's per wheel.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but he's still buying 15s at 90 quid a wheel.
I'm not.
73.
Yeah.
My last set of wheels that I bought in 15 were in excess of £1,000.
Yeah, because they had a fancy Japanese name on it.
No, they didn't actually.
But this is my point. What's happening is everybody's running around harking about real wheels and showing off their real wheels, and everyone else is going, I can't afford that. I better finance some so I can buy some.
Yeah, I mean, my sets of wheels go as follows. There's a set of raised Volks in chrome. They need refurbing badly, and I didn't pay a lot of money for them, but they're going to be my winter wheels. There's the Works NR4s, and I'll be honest with you, when I had the prang in those and I bent the rim, I was really glad they weren't a cheap wheel because they didn't crack, they didn't split, they bent, and they could be repaired. They'll never go on the MX-5 on track again. They now live on the Spike because it's safe to run them on that car. But nonetheless, I didn't kill a set of wheels that's worth like $3,000. And then I've got the...
There's a problem though, isn't it? Because like you now can't enjoy those wheels because they're worth too much.
I actually really do enjoy those wheels on the Spike. I love the way they look on the Spike.
Yeah, but not everyone's in the position to have 2 cars or 3 or whatever.
Well, not everyone's in the position to buy.
Not everyone.
I hate using the term real wheels because all it is a different brand.
Yeah.
That's literally all it is. There's no people copy designs.
Yeah.
But there's a limitation on the number of designs out there, and unless they're a blatant copy, it's not a rep.
No, I'm gonna dare say something, right? There's no such thing as original anymore. Somebody's done something similar at some point.
But
right?
That's the thing. They're similar. They're not copies, so they're not a rep.
What entertains me greatly is actually, the genuine reason to buy real wheels in inverted commas is weight, fundamentally, right? So when I did bend the NR4s, I put in a phone call to the guys at Tag, and the conversation essentially went, I need wheels in these specs. What is the lightest set you've got? And can I have them in bronze, please?
NKRPF ones.
I ended up with 6 ULs.
Why don't you just get some Mark II wheels? But we're going off on a tangent.
But even then, 6 UL wheels aren't exactly an original design.
No, they're not.
Other wheels have done similar.
They're not at all.
The difference between, I'm going to call them expensive wheels and cheap wheels rather than real and reps. Expensive wheels are made differently. The manufacturing process is different to a point where, like you, if you hit a wall, for example, you will bend it and it can be repaired. My rotor, I hit a wall and I took a chunk out of it.
Yeah.
And that's down to the manufacturing process and nothing else.
Exactly.
My XSRs have held up well. I've hit curbs on them and I've done
it's still held out.
And I actually think Milton raises a valid point. I think we'll use rotor as an example, right? I think the rotors that when they first came out and the rotors that exist now are two very, very different propositions in build quality. And the same can be said. The same can actually be said of Japan Racing, right? So those JR wheels used to be viewed as the even budget version of rotors, and now you see people wanting to put them on Lambos.
Yeah, I had JR wheels and I had no issues with them at all.
Yeah,
But
I've seen works fail.
Because the way that people see the specific set of I had JR 19s, and the way that people saw those were a copy of the Watanabes. The design was different. The design idea was the same.
Yeah.
But you couldn't get Watanabes in the specs that I wanted. So I bought the JR 19s.
And really crucially, right, unless I was rolling around in a little thing that I put on 13s, right, I would not want to be running genuine Watanabes on anything that goes anywhere near going fast on the road or on the track, because if I damage those wheels, I have just spunked a bit of money on an expensive ornament.
Yeah, with the whole real versus fake wheel thing, right? As far as I'm concerned, boils down to you either run a real wheel because, like you say, it has a performance benefit. It's lighter or it's a little bit stronger, whatever it is. That's cool. Apply that logic. I want the real wheels because they're the lightest wheels I can get. Tick, you're fine. I run fake wheels because they're really affordable. It's easy to get in the specs that I want. I don't have to troll through Yahoo auctions and wait 5 weeks for them to turn up. I can just buy them and look how good they look. And then there's the people who go, real wheels are better because this, and real wheels are better because they bend, they don't break, and real wheels this. They are the kind of people who buy a Rolex just to let you know they've got money. They're the people who I don't like. So let real wheel people look down on you for running not real wheels, because that's how they get their happiness, and that is fine.
On that subject, go on, Matt. Last point, and then we're
it's a good point that Bryn brings up about buying a Rolex to show that you've got money, because there's a lot of this, and this circles back to the internet being the problem with the world again.
Yep.
Is people buy to show off. So it's a case of go on the internet and go, I've bought a 20,000 PS13, £20,000 PS13, and it's got all of these really expensive things on it. And if you look at their bank account, it's probably got 10p in it.
I know for a fact.
I'll be honest, though.
I know.
I'll be honest, though. This is important. I was being facetious about the comment of people buying real wheels just to show they got money. I get that people like real wheels because of the brand and the heritage, and they want to support it and all that. And genuinely, that is fine. Just stop on wheels that aren't real, because there are many other reasons not to.
Can I raise the next point?
Yes.
It's a quick one.
Can I round out a very important point to what Matt's just said?
Go on.
And that is, the one of us who has put the most genuine parts on their MX-5 probably has the least in their bank account, as we all know right now.
Yeah.
We know what COVID did to my finances between us.
Yeah.
And because I've spent a load of money on genuine parts, we'll say, that storm was a bit rough for the brand, actually. And Milton, your point can now be made.
Good. The problem is also it's the outside perception of cars and modified and whatnot. Like there was 3 times processors on the M25.
Yeah.
Processed in, I think it was about climate and new houses not being built with enough insulation, so it's bad for emissions.
Yeah.
So
weren't they all there in supercars?
No, they all turned up on the M25 and sat and glued themselves to the road, and then caused like 4-hour tailbacks. So they caused lots of cars to sit there running. But because the police only would turn like 2 cars to deal with it, yet they'll send 30 cars to a car meet.
I think that raises actually an interesting side of the argument again, and actually that boils. We're going to come back to it. It's the internet, because you go on social media, and that there is an algorithm sat behind that, and whether or not you interact positively or negatively with something, you're interacting with it and it's holding your attention.
An interaction on the internet is an interaction.
Yeah.
All the algorithm sees is you've clicked on it. They don't care what you've done with it. You've clicked on it.
So to all the people who dislike our videos because their car wasn't in it, keep that shit up, thanks.
Yeah, all YouTube sees is a like. It doesn't see a like or a dislike. It just sees that you've clicked
someone's
on one
engaged with the video. And what you get essentially is you get those people who have glued their asses to the tarmac of a major motorway have been developed into such a way that they're so outraged by everything. They feel that the sensible thing to do and the only way to solve climate change is to actually create a bigger problem.
Yep.
See, this is another internet thing. And I've said this before. I don't know how this used to be in like the 70s or 80s, but if you had a problem with someone, it wasn't across the internet, and not everybody knew about it until like a news outlet got hold of it or something like that. So the problem wasn't there because it wasn't spread far and wide. It just got ignored. So if, for example, you come across somebody who's being wildly racist, instead of trying to engage with them, just ignore them. If nobody's engaging with them and riling them up and all the rest of it, then they're going to get bored of it because nobody's listening to them.
Or make like the pre-internet days, right? Meet up with them for a pint and smack them in the face. Just for being a stupid.
I mean, that'd work too. But this is my point. If things
I'd like to just put a disclaimer in there. Please don't go and just smack random people in the faces. It's very illegal. And as much as
these days they can tell because there's cameras everywhere because internet.
Make sure you're wearing a mask. Don't hit people in the face. It's naughty.
I think this is the conclusion because no matter what point we make, we're circling back to the internet.
So, in answer to what's wrong with the car scene today, it's the internet. Q, shoot the router, slap. That I'll drop a message over to one of the art team about tonight.
It's an interesting point though because we started out by going finance is the problem, but it's not.
It's not.
It's appreciation.
It's you circle back to Bryn's last point about putting expensive wheels versus cheap wheels on, and somebody puts cheap wheels on a car, and then they all turn around and go, "Why have you done that? You should buy expensive wheels." Rather than going, "Here's my car with some wheels on," and then they go, "That's a good choice. It looks cool."
Yeah,
it's gratification from someone. Is that the word?
Gratification is what you're looking for, and likes and stuff like that. But so put it this way: what kind of brand do you think Rotiform is? We talking reps or Nancy?
Bit Nancy.
Right. So
they're a real, aren't they?
I
wouldn't.
It's
Ken Block.
No, that's 1552.
Yeah.
That you're thinking of.
No.
15.
He's got Rotiform.
No, he's got 15.
He probably has moved on to Rotiform.
He's got. I know Mad Mike has Rotiforms now. So it's interesting. You said, Milton. You said expensive, didn't you?
I didn't say expensive. I said real.
Or real.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting that Bryn says Nazi because the Ferrari GT3 race car runs Rotiforms.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
And this circles back to the point of expensive versus cheap, because they may have started out as a cheap brand and they may have done reps, but they're at a point now where they're on full race cars.
I think there's an element to this that is essentially an attitude of keeping up with the Joneses, right? And it's been there throughout human history. So the problem with a lot of things is just wanting to have the same shit your neighbours have got, right? The difference is now with the internet, you can see all the bloody neighbours.
10,000 other neighbours that are on MX5 nuts.
And everybody...
always be a neighbour with more money than you. At least when it was your neighbours, they were all exactly the same financial situation and background as you are.
And then,
but it's a good point. And I think the other thing that's the problem with the car scene is attitude.
Yeah. I think there's certainly... At my age, I'm noticing a creeping problem with entitlement across a certain generation, and I'm not saying that as a boomer. Before Bryn gets it in, I'm saying that as someone who's kind of grown up, coming from a place where I've had to kind of graft for a lot of stuff, and I've seen it where me and Matt work. I've seen people come into the job and go, "I'm going to have a promotion in 6 months," like when they're fresh out of uni. That's not how the real world works, I'm afraid. And there's that element of things where people just expect to get whatever the hell they want, and they don't, and then they get upset about it, and then it's some form of outrage that has to happen, and then that gets plastered all over the internet, and you get a case of it's not actually the majority that are trying to make a point, it's just the loudest voice ruining the fucking fun for everybody else. And I think that is really what's going on in the car scene. The outside perception is that small number of people who behave like complete and utter bellends creates outrage in the algorithm online, and people think we're a bunch of degenerates, right? And I can guarantee that there's 1 in 4 people on this call, on this podcast, that have done outrageous, stupid stuff on a public road during their youth. But I'm still the minority. Yeah. Even in that, I'm probably the loudest thing that you hear coming sometimes. But
yeah, I've got a big mouth.
Yeah, and a very loud Nissan Stagia.
Yeah. But it's an interesting point, because if you look at the show scene, let's call it, so people that build show cars on air and wheels and all the rest of it, there's a lot more entitlement and bellendedness that goes on in that sort of scene. But if you turn to the drifting scene, for example, there's a lot less of it going about, because I don't know whether it's because we're all there to go and drive and have fun and all the rest of it, but it's not as common. Like, you turn around to anybody, near enough anybody in the pit lane at Santa Pud Day, for example. "Oh yeah, can I borrow that tool you've got?" Yeah, sure. Just bring it back when you're done. And there's a lot more trust with it. But if somebody at a show said to me, "Can I borrow that expensive tool?" I'd follow them over there, because I don't think I'd trust them to bring it back.
But that may entirely be perception, because there's plenty of people in the show scene that I have lent tools to and just gone, "Yeah, just bring it back when you're done," and they bring it back. I think. Do
you know them though beforehand?
Sometimes not. Sometimes it's how I've made the friends. Actually. Yeah. I met Connor because Connor tried to help me break into my own car.
I think that's a lot of you get an impression of somebody when you first meet them. But I think Brendan Milton would attest to this as well, that you meet a lot more friendly people around drift pits than you do at car shows.
Yeah, but how many people in drift pits do you meet wearing a fur coat drinking moonshine?
That's exclusive to you.
It's a more social thing, though. Like drifting in any track event is more social sport, because you spend a lot of time there in the pits talking to other people, whereas I think car shows, you spend a lot more time shut away thinking about your own car and building your own car, and then you kind of go there to show it off, and you don't tend to hang around and talk to people as much in a way.
I think this is a good point to make, though, because when you say car scene, you're including show scene, track scene, drift scene, the whole lot all together.
Yeah.
Whereas actually the different individual, call them silos, are completely different to each other.
I think there's more overlap than some people give it credit for, but you are right there.
Absolutely.
I think actually, the reality is as we've said, that basically cue animation for Milton of let me work this out. Facebook symbol, tank somewhere under Matt, fire. Would you care to do it, Milton? He's not even, he's on mute. He's not even said the words.
But you raise a good point about Facebook, because for the last couple of months I've basically stopped using it.
Yeah.
because I'm fed up with people just hating on each other. Or like you go on, for example, a Formula One post, and it's just, oh, I've decided to be blurry.
It's all right. It's all
That's
the
making a controversial opinion fade in out.
hide him. It's just the smoke
There
from
we
the
go.
tank shot at Facebook.
Yeah.
But like,
you look at any public post on Facebook, and there is guaranteed to be hate on it.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the point. I think this is actually a really good place to wrap up. Basically, even though the chances are you've probably got to our video from Facebook, because that's where most of our traffic comes from right now, what we really want to do is burn down all social media and just start again with MySpace, where Tom was everybody's friend.
But at the end of the day, we blow Facebook up, and we're still going to go to shows, and you're still going to see us at shows.
Yeah. And
nothing's going to change.
And
the difference is you're not going to see us build our car beforehand.
And you
You won't see me at all. If we blow up social media, I'm moving to the mountains. Sick.
Yeah, let's go.
I am hyped to be a Japanese mountain man.
I'm going with Bryn. That's
the whole point. I don't want any of you. I want to move to the mountain on my own.
I'll find my own mountain. I'll find my own mountain, Bryn, and then we'll fight from our mountains with each other, and then we'll start this whole internet again, so that we can get other people to back us up in our fight between our mountains, and that's what's going to cause the whole next problem in the car scene.
The point here is
get there and we'll be dead.
The point is Bryn's not going to be here next week because he's going to be on his own mountain with no internet.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, thanks everyone.
On that bombshell.
Thanks everyone.
You're not allowed to say that's copyrighted, I think.
If we're not allowed to say it.
Anyway.
Because the BBC are going to sue us on that bombshell, we haven't got any money for you to take from us. Good luck. Thanks everybody for watching. The problem with the car scene and most of society today is actually the way we use the internet. Don't forget, like, subscribe if you want to. If you don't want to, dislike. I don't know. Maybe leave a comment about what pose Milton should do next in front of one of the cars. Or whether or not Bryn needs the sides of his hair cutting so he looks a bit less like Bam Margera.
I do need the sides of my hair cutting.
And finally, if we get 800 likes on this video, I will chase Matt down and shave his head so he looks like a potato.
Sides of his head?
No, just the whole thing. I'm going to potato Matt.
I want him with a mohawk.
Okay.
Yeah.
800 likes and Matt gets a mohawk. Voluntarily or not. I've just got visions now for the end of this episode. I've just got visions, and I'm going to leave you all with this, of Matt greasing himself up when we try and catch him.
You can't catch me!
Whatever floats your goat, Bam.
Thanks for watching. Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye.